Yo, I got a hat for you if you'll wear it. Not now, obviously. But if you want a free hat.
I was gonna say I just heisted this. Yeah, we're here. Oh, I love beanies.
It's our Rethink Tank hat.
Okay.
This is our this winter's edition. Dr. Fauci's How the Rona Stole Christmas.
I'm so sorry.
A Seuss original. No, dude, you're fine. It's a Seuss original.
I don't think it's his original. He has passed away.
So it's nice doing this with like an actual performer because they'll
Yeah.
have an understanding of like, keeping a fist away. And these things are malleable. They can move.
Oh, it does come
So
this
like,
way. Okay, cool.
people are always so like timid to move it, and it feels so fun. Like you can just.
I always like talk with my hands too much, and like it's going to happen where I bump it, and then I'm just like look at you, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
Hey, but again, they can handle it. They're hardy. So I have so many questions for you. I couldn't be more excited. If you need the lighter to open, I put another one by the table over there. So because I got one on deck as well. So we got a couple. Honestly, that's the other thing. Feel free to just have a free-flowing conversation.
Yeah, okay.
And if anything, this isn't live, so if anything we say that you're like, hey, man, I didn't really like
I can't imagine. There's like nothing I'm real like to.
But you know what? That's the world we're in today.
Yeah.
Like it's so funny. Sometimes I'll have that reaction of like, it's pretty good. But then I'll say something about like, we probably shouldn't be cutting kids' wieners off. And they're like, hey, that one.
Well, they should be saying that's a fair point.
Well, the other part is like, if we don't start talking about it, we're going to be cutting a lot of kids' wieners off. So maybe
is this like an epidemic? What's going on? This is the first, is this circumcision we're talking about?
Well, no, it's circumcision on steroids. It's this, a lot of the conversation sometimes tends to lead towards like, transgender children and
right.
Not literally. I picked something as like aggressive as I could come up with to give you an example.
It's like one of those things where it's something I know nothing about, and I'm like, even if I have an opinion.
I just love your response. Is that an epidemic? Like, what's going on with the kids with...
I didn't know that's what we were talking about. Now I feel bad for these kids.
So I love that term, think tank. Think tank. I mean, you know what a think tank is? Like, how's a think tank go, Jim?
Yeah, they got cancel culture nowadays. You gotta watch what you say. It's getting real scary out here.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know if I can take the conversation here, but we might as well. It's the Rethink Tank. Looks like you had a little bit too much to think here in the Rethink Tank. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and thanks for joining me again. So this is a really unique episode. I couldn't be more excited to actually bring it to fruition. I had the opportunity to go see Joe List perform in downtown Cleveland here at Hilarities. And again, one of my favorite comedy clubs. I can't get enough of it. And I go on this date, and I'm sitting with this girl, and the MC of the night was hilarious. And before I bring it, like, I'll bring in my guest, but to preface, he was absolutely hilarious. And I kept leaning into my date, and I'm like, I'm going to message him and see if I could get him on my podcast. I'll find him on Instagram. He can't have like 1 million followers, so I'll probably be able to get a hold of him. And the next day, I'm trying to type it out. I don't know what to say. I'm getting in my head. I'm like, nah, this is going to sound weird. Then I let another day go by. Then it's like 2 days, and I'm like, now it's too late. I'm not going to be able to reference that show. It's been too long. He's going to think I'm insane. I overthought the whole thing. And then a whole week or two later goes by. It's a dead issue at this point. And me and Kemp go to gamble on what was it, hermit crab races at one of the local bars here. And I had a few drinks, I'll say that too, but you would have thought this was like my long lost brother, because I see this person coming up and I'm like, hey, it's Joe. And he looked at me like I knew. He was like, hey man. And so I want to introduce my guest by a fluke that I was able to make a connection with, and I honestly could not be more excited to learn and laugh with. So to introduce my guest, Joe Briggs, local comedian. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine.
My favorite part about that intro is when you were like, he can't have 1 million followers. My first thought was like, not even close. I barely have I don't even think I have 1,000.
But even though, still though, that's still a lot. You know what's funny is like, when you're trying to traverse this space, you want to snowball an audience that people will follow you. Because like, look at these comedians. Joe List, he could just go to a city and he's got an audience of people seeking him out. Yeah. So the reality is you go, well, my number, because we have like a social credit score when it comes to these followers, you go, well, I'm not important because I have 900. You have like close to 1,000. Well, go look at your regular people friends, right? The people that were like cool in high school, they're at a solid like 250 now. That's like, so truthfully, we play these numbers because you look at people with 1 million all day. Dude, you still have a follower.
It is weird too because I'm like 29. Okay,
right.
So like people my age grew up and like Instagram was kind of a thing. So everybody does have like 250, 300 followers. But if like people I know that are younger than me that are like 22, 23, they all have like 1,500 followers and they're just like, yeah, it's my friends. It's really just like every person they've met in their entire lives.
Well, also, let's agree. I would like to make the argument that you probably had like 1,500 Facebook friends at one point, and now it's at like a solid 900 because those kids don't have opinions yet, right? Like right now, they're just talking about Beyblades and Crocs. But give it just enough time to where like somebody has an opinion for a president and they're like, unfriend, like it'll snowball.
It's that too. And I think part of it is like, oh, my mom's on Facebook. And then and they're like, I'm going to go on TikTok now. Yeah.
And it is so funny.
I don't know a lot of moms that are on Instagram either. So I think that's like relatively a safe space, But
it's still, you're seeing it happen slowly but surely. And what's funny is it is totally parallel to once the adults take over, it change. Like, look at TikTok. It is evolving to where but do you think we're relying on a new platform to come? Because, like, there is no next thing to TikTok. Like, these kids, unless they find it, right? I guess they're the ones that set the trend. It could be out there and they just haven't made it yet.
I don't even know if it's, like, the next thing. Like, TikTok, do you remember Vine?
That's what made me reference a question.
So, like, I think, like, sometimes it's just going to be something similar, but as long as it's, like, the new thing, like
that's so true.
If kids are like, well, my mom's on TikTok.
Well, you know what?
I'm going to go to Bouncer or whatever it's going to be like.
But I think about that all the time. You look at, like, these kids. Honest to God, I call them kids. Even if you're 20. I'm 28. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm looking at a 20-year-old like a kid. And when you're, like, naked everything but actually showing your nipples and you're doing the skimpiest dance, you've got to have like all your chips in the mom's not seeing this basket, right? Like I think about that all the time. It's like there's no way your mom's seeing this, because there was a couple that it's like I look at it, I'm like,
that's true, but also I am so grateful that like I grew up in a time where social media wasn't everywhere yet,
right?
Because like we got to like. We were like the last-ish generation where we didn't have to be on it all the time.
Right.
And so like, I was just a weird kid. I can't imagine growing up and having like the option to broadcast my thoughts to the world. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so.
Like I posted on Facebook, I got in a fight with one of my friends on MySpace, my bad. And I was in grade school and I just was like, Alex sucks. And my mom, like, ran into my room and was like, you take it down.
You know what?
And we're going to call Alex. You're going to talk about it. Yeah.
Well, how about this one? I'm of the opinion that the older generation has damned us with this belief that, like, I think they're the ones that set the tone of cancel culture, truthfully.
Okay.
Because when I was like a sophomore in college, so maybe I was 20, and we had a fraternity party in my house. Like, it was my house. So I don't care what you see, Aunt Susie. And so I am sitting it's like 6 friends. I'm sitting on a counter with the cheapest, trashiest, like $9.99 handle of tequila, and I'm sitting there.
I've had that tequila. It's good tequila.
And we can't handle the hangover like we used to from that tequila.
Not at all.
So I had a profile picture of just like me my mom's aunt. So like, I call her cousin, but she's like once removed. She's super old. She calls my mom in a tiff. He's holding the tequila. And I'm like, Mom, if this is what ruins me, then I was never marketable in this professional space to begin with. And she's like, you're crazy. The reality is none of it's damned me. I work at the local courthouse and I say some pretty outrageous stuff on this podcast. The reality is, though, I'm probably the most invaluable worker they have. So I think they've planted this seed in us of like, ooh-wee, that picture with the Solo cup, that's going to ruin you. I have a friend who's a guidance counselor. He's a guidance counselor. He's not a judge. Okay. And he's changed his name on Instagram to Stove. All he has on his Instagram is pictures with him and his grandma. Okay.
If you would have said pictures of stoves, I would have followed him immediately.
He's not that creative.
Oh, my God.
But now I call him a kitchen appliance because he had to hide himself. Nobody can find me with my pictures of me and my grandma as I'm over here saying some of the most outrageous stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, but wait, you're of the belief that your career is going to be over as something with a pretty low standard, in my opinion. Yeah. And then you have other people who it's like, so I think it's just the seed they planted in us. And the reality is not enough people are willing to dip that toe in the pool and even to find out. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
It makes sense. I really don't think it's like a real thing.
Right, yeah.
I think what is happening is the same thing that always happens, where old people just don't understand young people, and they finally like came up with a label for it. That's it. It's just two generations not understanding each other, and they're like, Elvis she doesn't like me. Music. That's cancel culture, and it's just like, no, mom, just like, because it seems like it's kind of a one-way, two-way street between young and old for the most part.
Yes,
and it's just like, I don't think it's real. I think it's no different than my dad being like, oh, they don't make shoes like they used to.
Right, like, right. Or Elvis is the devil's music, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly. Exactly that.
And at the end of the day, though, let's just say okay.
Little Nas X is now Elvis.
But, okay, I'm also of the opinion, swinging your hips and looking sexy, right? That wasn't necessarily the devil's music. But it did lead to WAP. Right? It did. Somewhere indirectly, down, but yeah. Like, yeah. WAP is now being sung to your 11-year-old daughter. So at some point it was like, maybe we didn't see the entire, I don't know, picture, but like now this path did lead to something where it's like, okay, but at the end of the day, do I think, just like video games, you know what was huge when we were kids? I think because social media didn't totally take us over, video games came before that age. Yeah. And you had Columbine and all these things where they're like, okay, video games are causing violence and murder. But none of the statistics reflected that. None of the statistics or numbers showed that. But we had no explanation for the first time we have a gun shoot. Exactly. Yeah. But the reality is, for the masses, it didn't have that effect, right? So the question is, are we just trying to draw upon something, or kind of like a pill? Like, let's just say we made a new pill. Yeah. They always say, this is going to probably prevent you from having a headache. Well, let's just say that's what it is. And then they're always like, it
could give you blood clots.
And it could give you, and for the majority of people, totally fine. But a couple people are going to have blood clots, one or two of them. So let's just say...
And then when I take the pill, I'm like, no blood clots. This is bullshit. I got to keep living.
Or you look at the other guy and you're like, sissy, this is Darwinism, baby. But
is it?
But think of like, this whole new evolution in the human, history line. Social media, connectivity, the internet, all of this. Maybe like a pill, you're going to have statistically some side effects. Some people are not going to be able to handle it. So I don't know if we can blanket universalities either way, if that makes any sense. Like, it could have an effect on some people, but I think the majority of people, it doesn't. So do we stop everybody from playing video games, or do we blanket statement social media as being totally terrible?
Even with video games, you can like make that argument already. There's seizure warnings at the beginning of games. So you stop every kid from playing video games because like 0.00%.
I mean, how about
I know that I just said the word zero like an idiot, but I mean, for real, there was kids having seizures watching Pokemon when we were kids. That was like a big thing where they tried to get rid of Pokemon. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I totally forgot about that.
And so it's like, I don't know. You can't make everything safe always.
What's interesting is so I went to Miami University, and we had this grad school, undergrad, like hybrid class. Yeah. And the grad students, they had like a little bit more homework and da-da-da. But in this class, we had to go to a special room in this building that I went to every day for 4 years, right? Never any different. But this one room, they took out all the light bulbs and put in long lamp posts around the whole inside of the room because one girl would have seizures from a certain type of light bulb. It was the most, and I don't even know what to draw upon this, but it's like, that was so obscure, like, and not,
That is
it's
something I would
to,
never think of.
Right,
Like,
exactly. A light bulb.
Yeah.
And a light bulb type, because it's not that we had candles instead of light bulbs, it was just a different type of light bulb, and if we didn't do that, she would be open to having seizures. So it's like, okay, we're facing two different things here. It used to be, in the older times, that was the person that just got eaten by the lion and the pack moved on. Now, we want to live in a society where we try to make it flourish for everybody. Yeah. But how much do you slow down the pack for the person at the back? And at the end of the day, changing the light bulbs didn't harm anyone.
So that's why I'm like, yeah, do it, man.
Do that. But do we say...
Change all the light bulbs. I don't give a shit.
How about this one? But then TikTok on the other side, this new generation, they're like the moral police out here. And now you can't have a flashy video. It's like, okay, well, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Maybe you don't get to ride the Star Wars ride Disney because it's got a few flashes. Like, do I have to lose the Star Wars ride, or does the Star Wars ride have to lose some of its thrill for 99% of us because that one person can't handle the one light bulb type? You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
no, I get it. I don't. That's a good question. That's a deep question.
Right. I don't even know how to approach that, because it seems very selfish when you take the position of like, well, the majority. But also it's like, there's the numbers. 350 million.
They're also like, I get that they're kids, but they are like young adults. They just don't have that life experience yet, and they're so optimistic, which I do respect. And so I do love that they're like, I want to help everybody.
Right.
I really like that, but it's also like one of those things where it's like, yeah, what's feasible?
Right.
You know, how can you help? Like, I get that they want to change one light bulb at Disney too, but also like, hey, maybe EpiPen shouldn't cost $150 anymore.
Oh my God. Speaking of that, let's see if I can find it. So, I just read today.
Like my brother has an EpiPen and he like lost it, and he was like, "This is like gonna hurt my bank account."
But do you know how many people? I need an EpiPen because I'm allergic to bees. Do you know how many people fly down to Mexico to get EpiPens on the low? I mean, it is amazing.
Did they vacation too, or
they'll just take a trip down there, spend a week, and pick up a whole bunch of EpiPens. And there's other medicinal products that are way cheaper in Mexico.
We're in Cleveland. I would just go to Canada. It seems safer.
But we can't. Canada's closed out from us. Here's what's crazy is, like, here in Ohio, the world has gotten back to normal enough that, like, we think of the world open like you used to. Like, hey, you want to take a trip to Jamaica? And it's like, oh, once you try to initiate that, you're like, oh, this is not actually feasible anymore. They've disarmed our ability to take those types of trips. We're a lot more closed off than we thought.
Yeah.
Like, try to go to New York. Would you want to go to New York? Probably not.
I've never been, so maybe. I know. It's like, if you gotta go. But I was supposed to go in May of 2020.
Really?
And then the shutdown happened. And I was like, oh, we'll go soon.
That's so heartbreaking. The last trip I took, we're in Harrisburg. I went to law school in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And it's probably 2.5, 3 hours from D.C. One of our friends moved there. And that week, we're hearing murmurs of like this Chinese virus. It's like, and it's going to make its way to the United States. And we're like, whatever. We go to D.C. and you had like one or two people wearing masks, I'll admit, but the vast majority of people, and nothing was slowed down. This was literally before it all. Tons of people licking doorknobs, shaking hands. I mean, it was crazy.
That was a thing I couldn't get behind, is just people licking doorknobs and stuff. I was like, that's not even cool without a virus.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to touch that doorknob.
Exactly. I don't even want to shake random people's hands, let alone
go back to planking. I don't care. Just don't lick my door.
Go back to planking. But it was so bizarre. And then like a switch. Wait, school's canceled. Everyone's home. It's all over. And I don't know. It was just amazing how it was flipped on its head like that. And how that last trip, even though we kind of knew it was coming, not a single person changed their behavior. It was what a weird time.
It was weird too. Like that week was like I had shows booked. It was like Monday did a show, Tuesday did a show, Wednesday did a show. Wednesday night people were saying, "Hey, our show Thursday might be canceled." Thursday during the day, Thursday's canceled. Friday's canceled. Saturday's canceled. Shut down. Wow. I mean, it just was like, okay, like I guess we'll keep going until they tell us to stop, and then it was just done.
So let me pick your brain about that. Me and my friend had the opportunity to go see Bert Kreischer when he did the drive-in.
Oh, I was there. Oh, the drive-in? Oh, I'm sorry. I saw him at the Agora.
Oh, wasn't that?
The time before that, yeah.
So that was awesome.
Yeah.
But one, it speaks to how like advanced this dude is.
Yeah.
Bert is so ahead of his time. It's wild.
He's made a career out of just being like the coolest guy.
Innovative and just being the cool.
Like,
he's the cool guy.
There's not a single person that's like, no, I don't think I would want to hang out with Bert.
That's a great point. No, you're fine. That's a great point. Well, so anyway, back to, this dude's innovative, and he does this drive-in. Dude, I got to tell you a story.
Wait, which drive?
So,
because I saw Hannibal Buress at the drive-in.
It could have been the same one.
The setup is...
It was not conducive for a comedy show. So perfect to that point. Again, but we're desperate for a show. Like, we've been trapped. This has been V for Vendetta fascist state. We want to go back to life. Yeah. And you have something you could do. And we're all socially distanced, so nobody's grandmas are going to get killed. We're gonna do this thing. What's interesting is there's a giant highway right behind it.
Yeah, this is the drive-in.
Yep.
And the trains.
And there's a train right next to it. So we're sitting there doing the show, and it's the middle act before Bert. He's doing his set, and a whole gang of bikers come flying through the freeway. And it's just like, and he kind of waits a second, and he's kind of trying to do it during it, but he's definitely getting drowned out. Then, not even 2 minutes later, we have a semi-truck coming through, and it's honking its horn, and he's just like, oh my God. Then, maybe 2 minutes longer into the set, a train comes through, and he's like, all right, well, now we have to entirely stop until the train goes by. And then he gets going again, and a plane goes over, and he's like, is a boat going to come?
Right by the airport, too.
So a plane, he's like, what's left? You going to have a yacht come through the middle of this thing? So, they made it work. It obviously wasn't the best for it, but there was nothing else going on. So the question I have for you is, we saw you at Joe List, right?
Yeah.
So that was a month ago at the longest. It wasn't that long ago. How many shows have you been able to get in this last 2-year period? Has it been on and off? All right, we got to stop again. Or were you able to sneak a few in throughout this period? I don't know. What was that experience like?
So, there was the initial lockdown, shutdown. I don't know. There's so many terms for all this stuff. But when stuff was closed.
Right?
And so it was 3 or 4 months, and there was no shows in person. So I did a couple of Zoom shows.
How was that? Tell me that experience.
You want the truth on that?
Yeah.
Most depressing thing I've done in my entire life. There was a Zoom show. I took it too hard because I was I finally found what I want to do with my life, and now I can't do it.
Right.
And so I did a Zoom show, and I finished it, and they were like, thanks for coming. I was like, thanks for having me. And then I just closed my laptop and just started crying at my desk. I was just I didn't know what else to do. And then the next day I was I guess I'll make a therapist appointment. And so it was just too much dumb shit. And so so then things started opening back up, and comics are all kind of crazy. We all knew that there was a thing out there, but we were we need to do shows worse than anything else, otherwise we were going to die too. So open mics kind of came back, hilarities came back at shows were coming back at limited capacity, which still thank God they were back. Thank God hilarities didn't close.
That. Low key.
Yeah.
Loved the small capacity. It was a show just for you and your friends.
It was very intimate.
Right.
It was but so then they just kind of have been trickling back, and then since vaccines came out, it's been good. I mean, there is some places where I think because people were so eager to get out, when things opened back up, we were like, hey, can we do our show here? Not me specifically, but people were people were saying, "Can we do our bar show here again?"
Right.
And they were like, "No, we have enough business now." It's just so there's shows that didn't get renewed, but thank God stuff came back.
Right. Well, what is interesting is like you do see shows like Jeff Garland that just keeps getting kicked, and you're like, dude, I want to see this show.
He's so funny though. Have you seen him?
No.
God.
So it's like, dude, just come already. Like, I get it. You know, you're also.
He may have got COVID actually though. For
Really?
one of them, I believe so. Yeah.
All right, well, that makes sense. Plus, he's from California, so
Yeah.
there's a whole different perception to this whole thing that he's coming from. But it's like, but also, you had someone like Kevin Nealon, who was scheduled at the same time, did not kick the can. I got to see him there, and he was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, he's really funny.
Oh, he is something else.
He's like been around so long where he's just kind of got it. He's got him figured out, and he just
does himself.
yeah, he's like unflappable. He's real good.
And what was great when we saw him was it was just all new stuff, like him just trying new stuff, and that made it even more funny. But we saw Tim Dillon at the end of 2020, like it was right when they opened stuff up. We didn't even hesitate, and we were just laughing, like, you know, not to, again, I need to emphasize, Hilarities is by far my favorite place to see a comedy show in the country. Like, I lived in Harrisburg, saw Joe Rogan in Philadelphia. Wouldn't recommend that venue in my life.
Okay.
But it was a theater, like a play theater.
Oh, theater, okay. Because there is some, like, you guys, I think Helium is in Philly.
Yes,
Yeah,
they
that's
have
pretty
one
good
in
club.
Philly, and I didn't see anybody huge there. It was just like locals, but they were great. I will say that Joe Rogan set was highly disappointing, and it was. I don't know if you saw his last Netflix special.
I try and watch specials to stay relevant, but I'll end up watching like half of them, and then I'll be on my phone.
You know who I want to see, and I haven't seen it yet. Okay, so you know how Netflix has like. There's Christina P was on it, and Joe List. There was like a 30-minute
Yeah, the stand-ups.
The stand-ups. I haven't seen Mark Norman's newest one because I'm like saving it, you know, like a fine wine.
I watched it one night, but I had come home. It was like a weekend, and I think I was like a little drunk, and I don't really entirely remember it. So I get to watch it a second time
hate
and
that.
live it.
I love it, but
and
I
live
hate
it again.
it. I do
or
that
I may
too
have fallen
often.
asleep. Not a good way to go through life, but
No, it's the life.
Yeah.
So have you seen his YouTube special?
yeah, it's amazing. Yeah,
So funny. And I love that they're doing that. I love that they're taking their autonomy. Like, look at Andrew Schultz. This dude got turned off by every venue and was like, that's fine. I'm doing it myself. And now he's set a standard. And he's probably at the highest peak of his game he's ever been.
Yeah.
Which caused him to get bought out by Netflix with a hour special. So it all worked out in his favor anyway. And I don't know. I think it's
because like even Sam Morrill's like very good right now. I think he's like legitimately one of the funniest people. If you can see him live,
he's going to be
a wrecking ball.
Right.
And he did the same thing where he made a YouTube special and it blew up, and now he's headlining weekends and stuff. I don't really remember him like being a main act before that. And now he's like, it seems like he's all around always.
Do you anticipate filming a special soon? I think I see something.
Well, so I filmed like an
Or
audio,
set?
an audio recording. I want to listen to it. I'm always afraid of. I rather wait and put something out that's really good than put something out too soon and be disappointed.
100%.
And so I don't know. The thought of recording makes me nervous because I'm like, I've been doing this for 3 years. What if people don't give a shit? And we'll see. I want to have like 40 minutes before I record something proper.
That makes sense. And will you be able to do it at like Pickwick or?
I mean, Mary and Bill have recorded their specials there. I don't think I'm at like their level. So one day, hopefully, I'd love to do that, but not yet.
So that's let's ask you about that. So we were just talking about how there's some stuff out in like Cuyahoga Falls.
Yeah.
There's like all these little niches that you don't even really know or think to look for.
Yeah.
How do you find these new events, and how do you kind of insert yourself? And has it been a difficult task? I don't know. Kind of how's that process been for you?
So it's just tricky because it's like such a weird business that there's no like real guidelines. So you're just asking other comics like, how'd you do this?
Yeah.
And
okay.
and it's different for everyone too. So it's strange. But bar shows, like I did a show in Erie last night and it was a bar show. So I just reach out to the guy that books it. And those are pretty easy to get on usually if it's like a bar or restaurant show. But then like actual clubs, you have to like break into them, it seems like. And it's trickier. Hilarities is in Cleveland. Funny Stop's in Cleveland. Funny Stop had like an amateur night, so I just started going to the amateur night, and like they had contests, and I would do those, and then you get to host.
Oh,
and
cool.
then Hilarity is it's just Mike Polk Jr. has a show.
Right.
So
and I saw, or you're going to be on that, right?
It was actually last night too, so I missed it. I actually hung out with everyone after the show because I was back in Cleveland.
Oh, that's so fun.
But I missed the show. But yeah, that was one of those things where I kind of is similar, where they had like a showcase style show with like 7 or 8 comics, and they had me on it, and then they give you a Sunday night where it's like someone that didn't get the whole weekend, and then you do good, and eventually you get like to host a weekend. But
so what's funny is I'm trying to remember, like, okay, this was right at the beginning of the no, it was before the pandemic, 2019.
yeah,
And outside of Hilarities, so you had like, I can't remember the restaurant right next to it, but regardless, Mike Polk was supposed to headline,
yeah.
and their power went out.
Oh, I think I was.
You probably
there.
This was fun. So they took
Flashlights?
extension cords
Yeah.
from the restaurant across the street, ran it out, and this dude was literally out front on the patio doing his set to like the street, East 4th. Like he was just doing it to East 4th, and like we just happened to be walking by, people just all accumulated and hung out. He was doing great. It was absolutely hilarious. And then somebody kicked the cord and just like knocked everything out again, because like their power was already out behind him, but just knocked all the power out. They're like, oh, they're all scrambling to get it all plugged back in. It was just like, but hey, we're trying, right? Like
That's like the most. I was not there for that, but that is like the most Mike Polk thing, because that dude, he just like doesn't care. He's like, I think this is gonna be fun. Let's do it.
Right, and he's.
And I wish I had that gene where I was like, I just don't care if it's good or bad, because I think it's gonna be a good idea and it's gonna be fun.
Well, even just
Like,
taking those chances, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just exposure.
Yeah.
If you can maximize exposure, that's how you're going to snowball something. Like, again, not every one of these podcasts is going to be a knock out of the park. But if you're at, like, Joe Rogan, episode 1800, like,
Jesus.
like, you're going to have some real gold mine in there, too. So some of it, but you also get back to your point where you're like, I just want to throw some crap out there. Like, it's also quantity. You got to find that delicate balance between quantity and quality.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I don't want to be one of those people that's just throwing darts at a wall to see what's gonna stick, but I also like, and I hate it when people talk like this. They're like, it's a craft, and it's like, I don't want to make something shitty, and then people be like, we wanted something nice. Like,
Well, what's funny is because you're in an artistic platform where, think of it like TikTokers, they got to make like 3 TikToks a day.
Yeah.
And most of them are trash. But look at somebody who really takes serious making
but that's
wood
like
table.
that's the game for TikTok, though.
Right,
And they
that is.
understand that. Yeah.
But also, is it always why though? Because you're feeding an algorithm that calls for that. The reality is, I don't know if marketability is really calling for that. Because look at something like a table or a craftsman who makes shoes, like your dad was saying about shoes, or whatever. The quality comes from not mass producing, truly taking in the craft. So it's that delicate balance. You also, how about this one? There's some guy I came across on TikTok, ironically, and he makes his own molds for action figures, paints them
I know who you're
himself,
talking about,
and they're
yeah.
all like comedy ones.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, you've seen the
Or
Norm
like movie
Macdonald
characters or something, yeah.
So the Norm Macdonald bit about the moth. Well, he's got like it's perfectly
The moth bit,
packaged and
oh.
everything, and it's the moth. Or the one that I wanted to buy was, my sister is obsessed with that Vine where it's like the guy Doug and his buddy are arguing about the
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz. She came in a bubble, Doug. My sister's obsessed with that. Well, he made action figures of these 2 guys, and I was like, oh, I need to try to get that for my sister. So they're all these obscure, but I'm messaging the guy. I'm like, I need this for my sister. He's like, well, listen, dude, it opens up on Friday at this date. I'm only going to be able to make 20 of them. Like, there's 15,000 people that want this thing. You got to try to be the first one. And I'm like, trying to schmooze. I'm like, dude, come on. I'll be the coolest brother. And it's like, what? You can only make 15, or whatever it is.
And that's like, I feel bad for him, because that's definitely one of those things where he was like, this is a cool hobby I have. I'm going to try and make a little money. And then it blew up.
Right.
And I was just like, I don't even know if this is fun anymore. Like,
So let's talk, because again, we were talking about that in terms of like before the podcast started. You were like, just to get through the pandemic and just to be able to kind of speak my mind therapeutically and everything else, you created a podcast. And then you did it long enough to where you're like, all right, but now I'm not really feeling it like I used to. I can tell you for sure there's been some days where I've made a plan to meet people here, and a half hour beforehand, I'm just like, I don't have it in me. But, a true artist finds a way to dig it out.
We dig it out. It's like one of my best friends, he does comedy. He moved to Wisconsin. His name is Ray Roberts. He's real funny. And so when he moved, it was right before the pandemic, and we were kind of like, oh, this is like a fun way. We'll do a podcast, stay in touch. And like, I still love doing it, but there's just so many days where like, it'll be like the morning before we're supposed to record, and he's going to be like, I feel like shit today. And I'm going to be like, I feel like dog shit. Let's just kick this out. But then it still turns out good.
Right, 100%.
And it's just like, we need to be better at promoting. I think we both do stand-up, though, so it's like... And
again, that love is going to take your priority. Wherever the passion is, that's going to take the priority. But so what I was going to draw upon, though, is like, you see it with the podcasting yourself. We kind of are projecting this guy's probably feeling it. Because when I'm messaging him, quite literally, he's like, dude, I got to tell you, that his friend that he's yelling at on Doug, the guy sitting on the couch, he's wearing a plaid shirt. He goes, dude, you have no idea. What's making this so hard for me to make more quantity is painting that plaid shirt is a real pain in the ass. So he probably came up with a cool idea, made one. He's like, this is freaking sweet. The internet was like, this is awesome. Now he's like, shit, now I got to paint that shirt 20 more times. Like, so I don't know. How do you approach this kind of, it seems like, do you think that happens to all passions, or is it maybe that this really isn't your calling, right? I'm talking about like this action figure guy. Like when fishing, right? Like you can love fishing, but at the point at which you got to wake up every day at 5 a.m., you're trying to do it to make your living. Does that get sick? Or if it truly is your calling, does fishing never get sick?
That's a good question. I think anytime, like once you start bringing like money and business into it, kind of ruins the purity of it a little bit to some extent. But I don't know. I
like that point.
Like when you're actually doing the thing, and it's like something new, like you love it and you're having fun, and there's just like a lot of other noise. But
that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Because guess what? This moment right now, like getting to chop it up with you and kind of just have a nice Saturday.
Yeah.
That is the greatest moment. But I'll tell you, when this is over and I turn everything off, I will be dreading editing. Because it's just hours of, you got to watch it 2 times through, and you're just so like, I don't know how familiar you are with, oh man, hold on, I'm going to cut this out because he's a comedian, and
because I use
he's from Cleveland, and I really don't want to.
Excuse me. I use Adobe Premiere for editing, and I don't have
And how complicated is that shit? That is a quagmire. Premiere.
So it is, but I had like a bargain bin editor before, so actually Premiere. Like when I got that, I was like, this is really nice. But editing stuff. That's why I don't have like more reels or TikToks, because I just like don't want to dump 2 hours.
But it is crazy that
to make a minute video, like.
Okay, Rick Glassman.
And
you know Rick?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's got a hilarious podcast. I also think he's one of the fun. He is hilarious. Yeah. If I could ever talk to him, if he ever wants to, he does kind of shit on Cleveland now that he's big wig Hollywood. And if he ever wanted to throw a bone back to Cleveland, like, dude, I think he is awesome. I'm really hoping to see him blossom. But
I do hate saying that. I hate when people leave Cleveland and they're like, yeah, it's Cleveland. And you're
because
like,
you know what? Screw these people. This place is awesome.
Yeah.
I am so tired of that narrative. Well, we're going to double back to that point. Because honestly, even like Parma.
I grew up.
Just so you know, right across the street is Broadview Heights, right? Right across the street is Broadview Heights. Do you know how many people, the second you go, it's right across the street from Broadview Heights, you go, you're in Parma. And it's like,
it's also right across the street from Cleveland.
That's true, too. So, you know, it's in that area.
Yeah.
But, so take someone like Rick Glassman with his podcast. He puts, what makes his show so great, honestly, don't like his perspective because he is definitely trying to pander to Hollywood producers. Like, look I'm on the team. Like, I push the narrative. Love me. But he's also super witty. You could tell there's like, I don't know. I don't want to get too politically incorrect, so I'll avoid some of my comments. But I really like his perspective in terms of how he makes it fun and his own. But what makes his show so great is you could tell he puts in boko time and money into the editing. Yeah. Like, he's got a cartoonist that draws in animations. And it sucks because technically I did start my podcast before his, and a perfect cut transition to another scene is snapping. He is totally owned and like that is his trademark. Like, he just snap transitions to everything. Like, and now I'm gonna have a gargoyle pooping on your head, and then it's just like, and literally that's his cartoon. Or it'll be like cut to a clip of or Marshall's Carpet One, which is his dad and his uncle's like carpet shop.
Wait,
it's
really?
Huge here. Oh yeah, his dad. That's his dad's carpet shop.
This guy's carpet royalty. I didn't know that.
Oh my gosh, you got to. And he intertwines the ad all the time, where he's like, "And we'll cut back to a ad from Marshall Carpet One," and it cuts to the ad. It's a great transition. Now that's his thing. Now if you use it, you're copying him. It's just the way he was able to make it all unique. The funny thing is, though, he talked about all the time how, like, this is my baby. And so I know what I want. I know that I want this gargoyle looking like this and da-da-da-da. But I don't have the time to do it all. Now I have to keep up with what YouTube expects of me. I have to have a schedule. I have to do all these. I don't have the time. And listening to his struggle of, like, handing some of that responsibility off to someone else, understanding that it's not going to look exactly like how you want it, but I think it's preserved his ability to not hate what he's doing. Yeah. You know, so I don't know how you traverse that balance.
It's just a tightrope act. And I don't, part of it is like, I'm sure he found someone that's like, he's not going to edit exactly how he does, but he's like, this is pretty good still. If it was someone that was dog shit, he'd be like, I hate this. I'm done.
Get out. So let me ask you, when it comes to your content creation and coming up with, like, you know, a new bit and everything, and it's probably, I would assume some of it is you just came up with a new idea, you experienced something in life, and you just want to riff on the stage and see where that takes you. But it is interesting. You listen to these podcasts, most of them are comedians, and they all have a different approach, right? Yeah. Like Joe Rogan is very high in writing it down and sitting there, and then he was just talking to like Brian Regan, and he was telling him, like, Brian Regan's like, I can't do any of that. I need to just go on a stage and talk it out and see what I got. If I sit there and write it out, I'm going to use too many adjectives. I'm going to get too wordy. It's going to be a whole problem. So I'm just curious because honestly, you're kind of self-taught, right? Yeah. Like a lot of this is like you just figure out what works for you, and you know what the end goal is, and you're just trying to figure out how to get there. So I'm just curious, if you don't mind me asking, kind of how that process is for you and how you've kind of developed it over the time.
So I'm a crazy person, and so I'll wait for, like, it's all usually like based in a true story. It all is actually based in true stories, and then sometimes you have to add, like, you know, stuff to make it funner. But something will happen. And then I'll, like, think about it for a week or two, and then I'll just start walking around my apartment doing it like it's a bit. So if I'm, like, walking to get coffee, I'll, like, just be doing a bit to myself, and then I write it out, because it's the same thing where if I just write it right off the rip, it sounds like it's not me.
Right.
And then I usually try it after that, and it's like, once you get it, I always record stuff on my phone, either audio or video, and then I listen back to it, and I'll be like, oh, like, that part sucked. We got to put something in there and try and do it that way.
So, would it be safe to say that a lot of your kind of adjustments, editing process for yourself comes from the self-reflection of the recording?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Someone like Chris Rock doesn't really do that. Like, there's some people that don't.
He's also Chris Rock.
Right. And again, I guess, but to get to that level, there was none of that.
But if you would have told me that and you would have been like, yeah, I know someone that doesn't record or listen to anything, I'd be like, you're out of your goddamn mind. You'd be like, it's Chris Rock. I'd be like, well, maybe you're making, like...
maybe if you're a superhero.
Yeah, maybe you're
that
making
makes sense.
Yeah.
But it is interesting how so many people have such a different approach.
Yeah.
But it does seem a lot of people in the field suggest recording yourself and reflecting back on it. It's just interesting that not everyone does that, because it seems like, look at like a football team.
It's an easy layup.
You have to, if you're a coach, you can't like expect better of your linebackers if you're not going back and watching the game footage and like adjusting.
How's that going to help us? That was in the past. Like,
you got pancakes.
we're thinking about the future, baby.
So, are you of the camp where the development is just exercise? I just got to get out on the stage, or does that need to be balanced with equal or more time, kind of writing and adjusting yourself?
I try to do equal time.
Okay.
Yeah. When I first started, it was like, you're so new that it's just like, get on stage every chance you can get.
Okay.
Because your writing isn't going to be there yet, so just get comfortable being on stage. And then you reach a point where it's like, yeah, it really does help to just edit, because if you're going to go to like a real bad open mic, it's not going to make you any better. But if you'd stay home for 2 hours and write instead, it's like, that's pretty good.
Interesting.
And that's another thing where there's like differing opinions on that. And
Right.
And again, it's like, I don't really care. This is what works for me. That just might not be what works for you. But that's how I've been approaching it. And somebody told me to start recording my sets. His name's Cody Cooper. He used to work. He had a kid, but he used to work at Hilarities. He's very funny. And he was the one that kind of told me, he's like, if you're not recording your sets, you're an idiot. and he's right. He's right. Yeah.
There's a lot to that.
Yeah.
So have you, we're talking from Cleveland, you're going a half hour out to like Cuyahoga Falls or I'm just picking places around here. But have you had the opportunity to break out of the Cleveland area? And is that mostly just finding an open mic somewhere in like, another state?
It's been mostly just like, I've been lucky. I've been getting at like Columbus, Toledo. I did one show in Detroit, Erie I get to do. But it's like bar shows mostly. I haven't broken it like that any clubs yet. Sure. And for the most part, I've broken even on gas, which good. I'm real happy about.
That's huge. Because most of the time you're being a deficit where we're at.
Yeah. And it is that thing too, where even if I didn't, I'd be like, well, if it's a good chance to like meet someone and then get like real bookings down the line, I'm going to do it. But
Right. So what caused you to, did you just kind of search for open mics or?
So, that's it. Like, do you know Bill Squire? He's on the radio.
Yes.
He kind of got me. He was doing a show in Columbus, and he just had me open for him 3 times now. So that's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Erie. I saw someone else did it on Instagram and was like, "Hey, I'm also from Cleveland. You think I could do this?" and messaged him, and it's just kind of random. Or if I go to cities on vacation, I'll try and there's a Facebook group, and I'll be like, "Hey, I'm from Cleveland.
Perfect.
Here's a clip. Can I?"
So how many? What's your minute count right now? Like, what's your longest set you could put out?
The longest I've done was like 34. I was supposed to do a half hour, and then I thought they were gonna light me, like what that. Yeah, I thought they were gonna give me a light, being like, "Yeah, you got 5 left or whatever," and I never got a light. And then I just was like, towards the end, I was like, "How am I doing on time?" And they were like, "You're 30 minutes in," and I was like, "Oh, well, I don't want to end on a question." So then I did another bit, and then I ended the show. Yeah, but
man,
yeah, again, that was too like I am newer, and so having that much time is a lot. So I don't know if it was all like killer, but it was passable. It wasn't a bad show.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and that's huge. Like people are so quick to judge that they totally underestimate like the vulnerability, but like what it takes to do that for that long.
Yeah.
Like take it back to what we were saying about making a 1-minute TikTok.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of work, and all you came out with was a minute. So now try to come up with 30 more or 29 more minutes of that content. Like, it isn't as feasible as people like to think.
It is like the weirdest profession, too, where people are just like, I could do that.
Isn't that so true? And none of them can. Like, the reality is, every person that, like, is, an accountant that's like, I could do that, I'm not. It's like, no, in fact, you couldn't. That's why you're not. It's
so weird. I don't know. There's a lot of people I think that could do it too that just never get over the like stage fright.
I think a lot of it is stage fright, but even more so for even those types that like could do it and aren't. I think you don't underestimate like someone like myself how jealous it is to like you're taking a very vulnerable leap, right? Like you're.
And I've had people say weird shit to me.
Can I hear some? Like what?
There's like, okay, so I did one. It was like a bar show in Akron, and somebody came up to me afterwards and I did a joke about having a panic attack, and he just was like, "Hey, I didn't like that anxiety shit." What?
Seriously,
and I was like, "I mean, it's real." And he goes, and he was like, "What?" And I was like, "I mean, you are uncomfortable, but goddamn, like when it happens to me, imagine how it really feels." And he was like, "Well, I just think, you used to just do jokes." And I was like,
that was the joke.
Most people laughed at it, man. Like,
so honestly, I was gonna be
just like at the same same side. I did a show in Youngstown once. Same thing happened. Dude comes up to me after the show. He's wearing like a cutoff tee. This is just like don't judge a book by its cover is really what this means. But he's like taller than me, jacked, cutoff tee. I'm like, this guy's gonna. He like across the room goes like points. No. And like I was like, oh, don't know what I said, but I'm dead. And he like comes over, pats me on the arm real good, and he's like, "Hey man, I have panic attacks too. I really like that joke." And I was like, "What the?"
So again,
and I literally told him, I was like, "I thought you were gonna kill me," and he's like, "No, I just wanted to let you know I really enjoyed it."
So there's someone that could relate to it and found enjoyment at somebody kind of, and again,
and it's a guy that if I looked at him on the street, I'd be like, I'm not gonna ever talk to that guy. And so it's cool. Yeah.
That is cool, and being able to bridge that divide. But what's interesting, or what it really speaks to, is how different we all are, and we all cope and react to things so different. But because what sucks is people have gotten so uncomfortable with like being uncomfortable, or I guess just now we need to control our environments. We need to stop discomfort. So what's interesting is you have like, let's just say somebody dies.
Yeah.
You're going to have some people that just are mourning so hard. They're mourning in a way where it's like very serious. Other people will make jokes because that's how they cope with that mourning. Dude, this is how laughable this is. Think Friday night football games in high school, the most irrelevant bullshit there is. We had this, I don't know if you know of the Tupas, but that's like the Brecksville staple. Everybody knows the Tupas in Brecksville because his dad he played in the NFL. He was the first person to score a 2-point conversion, everything. They walked on water.
Is that how they got the name?
The Tupas.
Did he play for the Jets? And there's people from Brooklyn can't say 2 points.
That's pretty good. So the Tupas. So you had this quarterback that like before every game, dude, it was like Nazi town. Everybody shut up. And I was a lineman, and I was just happy to. I just was happy to be there. I'm 17. Like I'm here for a laugh. I'm not doing this because I'm going to join the military. This isn't the military, nor am I going to the NFL. So let's just have some fun. He'd get focus. I'm like, dude, this is we're just shooting. We have 2 hours before the game starts. Like, get off my back.
Yeah.
And so but the same event, we both approached it very differently. We both were able to accomplish the same performance at the end. But at the end of the day, we had 2 different complete approaches. Are we supposed to cater to one over the other? Like, back to the guy who, I have anxiety. I don't like to joke. I have anxiety. That actually made me feel better about this thing I'm struggling with. So, back to like hate watching Dave Chappelle. I just don't like that he made jokes about trannies. Well, then don't hate watch it. Like, you know what's crazy is that thing that harms you, it doesn't harm you, but this thing you've convinced yourself that harms you, the only way it harms you is when you push the buttons to put it in front of you. No one ever said it had to be in front of you.
No, that's true. Well, okay, so there's a lot of points in here. Going back to the coaching thing. When I was in high school, I took it seriously because I played soccer. Yes. I hated it. I wasn't good until like I just worked hard, and then senior year I was passable as a player. Oh yeah. And my dad would always just be like, you're kids, and like just be like, just have fun out there. And I'd be like, it's not about having fun, Dad. And now the older I get, I'm looking at the coaches that like talk like that, and I'm like, they are just kids, man. Like you should just
let them have fun.
Don't scream at them. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know why you're doing that.
But
and then like the hate watching stuff, I never understood that, like hate watching stuff. But then like also, like if you're Chappelle, you don't have to say it. Something like I get that because I mean he's kind of made a name for himself as being like a smart guy,
right?
And it seems like a step back almost. Because I saw him in Yellow Springs and he like talked at the show and I was like, wow, this guy's brilliant. And then his next special, he's like making fun of trans people and it's just like, why?
But see,
it's just confusing. I'm not.
Did you take his bit as making fun of? Because what I think is you had media headlines that found an opportunity.
Oh, the media makes everything worse.
100%. Because like his whole bit, and again,
None of it's real.
I want to concede that like he has done a lot in the last few specials on transgender people. Like he's now like doubling and tripling down, which is
strange.
Different. Yeah, right. Yeah. So I'll definitely concede that much. But even like the bit in this last special, he's talking about a transgender fellow comedian that like he was really close with, and that other people projecting this agenda is what caused this person to kill themselves.
Yeah.
And so there was like an underlying moral message, but I think now we're in such a knee-jerk reaction world that like it's just there's no better way to describe it than trigger words, right? They're spoken, it's triggered, right? Like the reaction's triggered. You said anxiety, I have anxiety, it's over.
Hopefully that's not a trigger word because I'm fucked otherwise. But the thing people forget too is Chappelle's pretty old.
That's true.
So
too.
he like did grow up in an age when you could say a lot of shit, and people are like, "Why is he doing that?" I'm like, "He's in his 50s, man." Like,
so let me ask you something. As a comedian, when you look at something like that, and we are in this progression towards betterment and everything, like we are headed in the right direction, I'm sure. Do you think in the comedy space it should be limited, or should we, try to? Again, it's one thing to have the goal of let's do this less, but I have the record over there, the vinyl record of George Carlin. Like, are you ever gonna take out any of those words? It isn't the same guy, and I'm still gonna say he's probably one of the smartest, most impactful people I have in that collection over there. So it's one of those like, do you stop the guy from saying the seven worst words, or whatever his bit was of like the 7 worst words you could ever say? Do we take that away from him, or I just feel like you're never going to get another George Carlin if we tell comedians you can't say this, you got to walk these lines. Mm-hmm. It's like if there's anybody in the society that should be picking at that scab, maybe it shouldn't be the lawyers and the doctors, but it should be at least comedians.
So that's. So I think, two parts to this. One, like George Carlin, that's like once it's recorded and it's out, I don't think we should edit history ever. You know what I mean? Like if it's out,
that's the point.
That's history. Leave it. Even if it's like not good to say anymore or not bad, you can't edit history because it is what it is.
Right.
And that's scary when people think they can do that. And then secondly, like I don't think there's like a cancel. Like I don't think cancel culture is a real thing. But I do think if you go on stage and you say something people don't like, they're going to let you know, which is how it's always been for stand-up. If you go up and you're not funny, you're not going to get booked. If you go up and you piss people off, you're not going to get booked. So it's like a self-policing industry almost. I don't know.
So how do you try something new? Like, do you ever get worried about trying something new with, because you could risk it all. If you piss too many people off or you don't get enough laughs, you could lose it all, especially when you're at such a fragile stage where you are.
Oh, I think we're at the perfect stage. Nobody knows who I am. This is like I could try anything right now, and I think I could be okay for the most part. Yeah.
But do you have to worry about...
I also go up and say something utterly terrible just to say it.
Right. Do you worry about kind of burning bridges with club owners?
I mean, you've seen my set. It's pretty tame.
Oh, it's not. Again, it doesn't even get close to those lines.
Yeah, so I don't worry about that really too much at all. I worry more about whether or not the crowd's going to like me. I just...
And that's the biggest point.
Yeah. And then, but I mean, there's like when I started doing that, having a panic attack joke, that scared me. Because I was like, I don't know how people are going to react to it. There's like a newer bit that I've been doing where it's not ready yet. But I do... And I know this is like a thing everybody's doing now, and I hate it, but it was talked about how I was like... Maybe found out maybe what the word suicidal meant.
Right.
Because I just didn't know. And it was like, it's like that stuff scares me because it's like, what if somebody was
They
like,
had a
hey, I
family
just
member.
was suicidal, or
Right.
my cousin just killed himself or something, or it's just like, it could just be a bummer.
And again, but look at something like
Like even that panic attack joke, there's people that awe sometimes.
really.
Yeah, I'll be like, there's a homeless guy that rubbed my back, and people go, oh, instead of laughing.
But at the end of the day, it's like, but you came here. Maybe you came here to laugh, but at the very least, as somebody who's as a performer, I'm really just trying to make you feel something. Like whether and the goal is to make you laugh. I agree.
And it's so weird, that connection. It feels like there's a connection.
Sure.
When you're going and the room's going, and it's just like you're in that space. That's like the best feeling in the world.
So I got to ask you, when we talk about something like George Carlin, and we go, well, it's a testament to time. It's a piece of history, and
And he is someone that, like, if you listen to him throughout time, he changes
evolves.
a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But also, he always took a poignant approach to social issues, what's going on in the world, and it's like it's a testament to time. But if we could be of the agreement that, hey, we don't want to be in a place where we're erasing history, because look at like where we're at right now. We're marching right back to the history we're erasing.
Yeah.
So it's this delicate balance. We want to try to preserve that. Now, if we could say, we want to preserve this old thing, but recognize that it's in the past. What is your opinion on, do we bar somebody who wants to try to be the next modern George Carlin? Like, think about Bill Maher when he started, and where he's at now, he's a lot more tame. What if the new Bill Maher comes up right now in 2022 and he wants to take these chances, and a lot of the crowd doesn't like him? That's fine, but do we as an art form want to bar him from even trying?
So, like, again, I think the audience is going to do 90% of the policing on that stuff.
Fair.
But then, like, I think that, like, if someone comes up and actually wants to do that stuff, if he's like a nice guy, people are like, comics aren't going to hate him. But if he's an asshole, people aren't going to want to do shows with him. And if you like, actually, if you ever steal someone's joke, I feel like that's the quickest way to get comics to just be like,
you're done. Yep.
But like, I don't think comics would care too much if it's not like just obscenely offensive. It's just like, what's the audience gonna like?
That's a great
And that should be your number one, because like.
But see, and here's the interesting part, and it's got to be even more difficult for you, right?
Yeah.
Because when I sign up for Joe List, or we talked about how what brought up Cuyahoga Falls is now I can't even think of his name. Dave Landau. That's
Dave
the one that
Landau,
I said
sorry,
is gonna be in Cuyahoga Falls. All right, so Dave Landau's on Steven Crowder's show, right? Yeah. So he's on a very conservative show. He probably knows the audience he's walking into. Like, there's going to be some people that just strayed in off the street because they wanted to see a comedy show, and they're like, hey, this is the guy tonight. But then I got to imagine the majority of the room, wherever he's at, is going to be Louder with Crowder fans that are here to hear. So I want to pick your brain on, you want to curate an audience. The audience is going to do 90% of the policing. But some of these people are lucky that that audience is 90% the people that already know them or are expecting him to make Joe Biden jokes or whatever it could be. But you could have 3 or 4 people that are like, whoa, this is what I signed up for. I'm pissed, whatever. But it doesn't matter because you're the minority here. It doesn't matter. But let's say you're the opener for that and you're very liberal. You get eaten alive. So is it? I guess the question for me is, you've got these headliners that have curated audiences, so they can kind of know that they're in their safety bubble. As somebody who isn't curating the audience, you got to roll the dice. Somebody can be in the audience who's like, I didn't sign up for anxiety jokes, and you got to like make it palatable, or like, I don't know. I'm trying to find the question in that.
I think I understand. Like, I've opened for both sides of the fence.
Sure.
And like, I'm pretty apolitical.
Yes.
So it's like, I have not had a problem so far. I have one joke where I mentioned Joe Biden in passing, just because, like, did you get the new driver's license?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I got it, I took a letter from because he became president, he sent everybody a letter.
Right.
And I don't have paper bills, so I took that instead and was like, it's a letter from the president to get my driver's license, and it didn't work. But I took
and that was a great bit.
Yeah, it's a fun bit, and it's not political. It's just the fact that I'm like, I need it.
Got a letter from the president.
Yeah. I did that once, and I had somebody just like start chanting "Let's go, Brandon," and I was just like,
God.
I was like, it's not about that. And she just kept doing it. And I was like,
She kept chanting?
She would just like, every time I try to start talking, she'd go, "Let's go, Brandon." And then I just like looked at her. I was like, you're going to like the bit.
Like, yeah, like, let me get through this, please.
But it's one of those things where like, anytime someone's too polarized, I think it's an issue. Like when I can't even say the dude's name in passing. But like I did a show in Wisconsin too, where the guy before me, it was in Green Bay, and it was like real conservative. Guy before me mentioned how he got the vaccine for a bit, got booed, and then like same thing. "Let's go, Brandon" chants. It was like right when the "Let's go, Brandon" thing came out, and so that started. And I was next, and I was like,
so
I am
different.
screwed. And then I went up, and I had a fine set, and they were like great set actually. I like loved it. The mic broke during my set, like the PA system, like one of the speakers fizzled out, and I was like, it was just like a lot of fun. And then I don't know. You can never judge a book by its cover. You never really know, but
How unique.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is how, again, we're painted as a flyover state, you know, hillbilly farm people. But, like, we're pretty pro-vaccine. We're pretty on the right side of things here, even in Ohio. And that is just so different. Like going to Wisconsin to get booed for having the vaccine.
I didn't get booed, thank God.
No, but the guy before you, to have somebody get booed for saying, like, that's so opposite, the main narrative. But even here, that would not happen.
He was he was from like somewhere up in Wisconsin too. Nicest guy. I loved him. And he got booed, and then like after his set, like a drunk guy fell on his girlfriend at the bar, and I was like, he was just like, "This is the worst day of my life."
That's too funny.
I felt so bad for him. I was like, it's going pretty okay for me. Like,
My day was good. You should have kept the vaccine thing under wraps, but you know that's.
but like, it's one of those things where you don't think. I think people are going to get as upset about it as they have the potential to. Because I mean, well, even when I got the vaccine, I had a bit about it, and I had a bit about how I was like, I don't give a shit. I was like, if you're telling me I can do comedy, put it in me. And then I went to the Wolstein Center, and they were like, "Do you want your left and right arm?" And I like legitimately told the guy, like, "You don't even have to put it in my arm." And he was just like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And like people got touchy about that, so I was like, "I'm just not going to do that bit anymore." I guess.
Really?
Yeah. And then like after a certain point, it's like you're kind of tired of everybody doing a bit about COVID and the vaccine, and
that's true too. But again, if we can't have these types of conversations, like back to anxiety, you're gonna really cure the problem of anxiety by never talking about it, by not picking at it, by making jokes about it, by hiding from it. You ever gonna truly solve that problem? Like, is that guy gonna be alleviated of anxiety by not hearing Joe Briggs talk about a joke of anxiety?
That's a good question. I think there's hopefully different levels to it. Because, like, I think, the number one way you deal with mental health is by talking to somebody about it, obviously. But there are people who aren't quite ready, or they've just started that. I hate the word journey, but that's the only word I can think of. And it's like, they're not ready. They're not at a point where it's, like, fun yet. If they're still anxious or depressed, it's like...
But I think that gets back to the two paws, right? Like you have two different approaches to the same problem. Like there could be some people who are at the beginning of their journey. It's like making a lighthearted joke about it makes it more palatable. Yeah. So I don't know. But it gets back to like just a metaphor. Take like education. I think it's so dumb that we think, oh, yeah, 100% of this room is going to take to a person in front of a chalkboard droning on that 2 + 2 will always equal 4. It's like, oh, and then the 20% of the people in this room that doesn't take to this style of learning, you're dumb and you need a special class. Yeah. It's like, well, maybe this just isn't the best approach for them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think when we try to pretend that we can make a universal classroom that caters to everybody, we're delusional.
Yeah.
Because there's such variability, maybe we need to, diversify comedy shows, educate. All of these fields, I think, can be solved by, if we diversify, you get to find what matters and comforts you. But the problem with that is you go down that road too much, and now you're divided in hyperbolic chambers that you're in an echo chamber. So it's a delicate balance there too.
Like even with comedy shows, like you know who the headliner is, so you can generally assume the rest of the show is going to be like
That.
in the same camp or neutral. You know what I mean?
Right.
As far as school goes, I do think we need to start like pushing trade schools more.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Like there's so many. Not everybody's going to go to college.
And
not everybody should go to college. I'm not
exactly. And a lot of those degrees, you go, I need free education because, gosh darn it, I didn't realize that my gender study degree was not going to pay off my $200,000 debt. It was like, well, you maybe should have had foresight, or maybe being a carpenter was the better answer for you.
But like that, when you get like degrees, like I'm trying to think, like just like an art degree. Sometimes it's like, one, I love art. I don't get it. Love it.
Right.
I think it's a good thing for society. But that money is just so much money. But even so, you have teachers that can't pay off their degrees. And it's like, well, we really need teachers. Like, bad.
Right. Well, I think the economic... think about this. You have a doctor. You have a lawyer. A lot of them, yes, the doctor chose to be a doctor because they wanted to help people. Sure, the lawyers tell themselves all the time that they chose to be a lawyer because they wanted to help people. The reality is the old immigrant parent goes, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer because... there's a lot of money in that. Really why you're doing that is not because to help people, but because there's a lot of money in that. So you're best suited to pay off this debt. Yeah. You're going to have a strong life. You're going to do better than mom and dad. It's going to be better. But the reality is what we need to do as a society is reevaluate what's important to us, right? If gravity stopped working for the LeBron Jameses and Kanye Wests of the world, society keeps moving on. But if gravity stopped working for the firefighters, nurses, and we stop. Everything stops. Yeah. It comes to a halt. So we need to start reevaluating. I'm sorry. I love academia because the professors and teachers that were great were so impactful, but they were so few. The problem with our education system is if you really want to make the money and do the smart intellects of the world that have that capability are going to choose to be a doctor or a lawyer because that's where the money's at. So the problem is the most suited to, be productive in that field opt out of it because there's no money. Yeah. It's a trash field. So sometimes, especially with the union that protects it, you oftentimes get some trash teachers that fall through. So I think what we need to do is flip on its head.
Everybody remembers their best teacher, and everybody remembers
even
their worst
teacher. Even more so their worst teacher. And what's problematic is I will always love those teachers. I saw her yesterday. We were at a restaurant, and she was there. It's like, you will forever be my best teacher. But
do you ever, people that had, it's so weird when you see him as an adult too, and then you just feel like a child again.
Yes.
like my 8th grade teacher lives in my parents' neighborhood, and I saw him like 4 years ago, and so I'm like 25 at the time, and I'm just like, oh my god, it's so good to see you.
I'm sorry, and you throw out I'm not chewing gum. I probably.
And then you leave, and he's definitely like, I struck out on that one.
But it's just so interesting. You'll have like this. They will always have, you look at them, you go, you had the most impact on me. I'm always thankful for it. But the reality is, truthfully, what I think even has more impact on a developing child is the worst teacher you ever have. Like, if you truly think the worst ones, they had a severe impact. Like, when you think of them, it's like, we had this one teacher, she showed up hungover all the time. We caught her. Our middle school was the old high school. We caught her under the chemistry hood smoking cigarettes, just sucking them down with this hood, like sucking the air out, and you're just like,
she sounds sick.
Oh, she was
like someone like as an adult, I'd be like, pretty cool.
She would have made a hell of a comedian. I
would have been like, that's my friend Debbie. She's a badass. She smokes in front of children.
All right, I have some quick wrapping thoughts for you.
Oh, yeah.
All right, do you have, and if you do, can you share with us some funny stories of the crowd or just like experiences you've had, either if it's just an open mic at a bar or you're doing an actual, one of your bigger shows at Hilarities. Like, can I hear some of the, inside baseball stories?
The one that I always think of is it's just when I was very new. I've been doing stand-up for a month. So I have no bits. I have no jokes, nothing. And I was at an open mic at a bar, and everybody's doing – people that were, like, better than me are doing bad. Nobody's doing good. I go up. I start trying to do some dumb joke, and this guy that's just a townie in the back of the bar just goes like, hey, you're supposed to be funny, right? And I didn't know what to do, so in the microphone I just went, yeah. And then just got off stage. And that was like the one time where I was like, I'm pretty happy I didn't quit doing comedy because that night I really thought about it.
Dang. Oh, that's so aggressive.
It's so brutal. Yeah.
And you know what that speaks to, in my opinion, is someone who's never been vulnerable. Like they can't relate to like what you're risking and like the chances you're taking because they've never taken them themselves. Like look at a comment section of like a gorgeous woman on Instagram, and it's like, all this is a mirror into your self-hatred.
I've been in like a few YouTube videos. And I looked at the comments, and some of them you're just like, okie dokie. Like,
listen to Joe Rogan. He says never read the comments because
but you got it once.
You do. I mean, back to Rick Glassman. He reads all of them, right?
Yeah.
So you've got two different approaches to the same craft, and I think, honestly, Rick, even though he's not as famous, I really like his product more. You can tell he puts more work into it, and he cares.
But he's a guy, like Joe Rogan looks like he's going to be like, I'm going to do this. If people like it, this is what I'm doing. Right. Rick Glassman's like, I want to see what people think. I want to make this as good as possible.
He does have that. I want to be liked. But I don't know. Back to the point of nobody that loved you. Honestly, I think about what's made me confront this is how many people I love listening to on YouTube, and because they've already got 1 million views, I don't even think to hit the like button. Right? To me, I'm sitting here every time and I'm like, if we made you laugh, if we made you think, please share and like this episode because that's the only thing that helps us.
Smash that like button.
Boom, boom, boom. and I'm always pushing it, but it's like, I don't even think to do it it's like, to them, they monetize my like.
Yeah.
And at the very least, you put all this time and money into this, to a product that gave me 2 hours of enjoyment, the least I could do is hit that, just move my thumb in a place that gives back. I don't even do it.
Somebody gave me shit for that recently where I just realized, am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
Yes.
Okay, thank
certainly.
God, because sorry. But I was on like Instagram Reels, and I was sitting before a show, and I was just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and my buddy was like, you didn't like a single thing. And I was like, yeah, some of them were good, though. He's like, then like them.
Right, that's true.
That's like how these people are.
But you know what? So the reason I raise that point is I think the people that actually engage, back to like Facebook's algorithm, they did that research on us and they found out the way to get you engaged in Facebook the most is to find
you hate something.
Yes, find the things that upset you the most and put it in front of you. So I think the only people that truly take the passion and are compelled to, your mustache looked weird. It's like, what, dude? I think the only person that just takes that initiative is the person that already is coming from, like, they didn't like it. They're coming from the ill position. Whereas most of the people that loved it, they're like, yeah, I laughed and moved on. I
know we're talking about it, but I did get one YouTube comment one time where it's like the coolest comment I've ever gotten.
What was it? We got to hear it now.
I was doing, do you remember those videos where it was like, I hate the 90s, and they kind of just like interview people and cut? It was it's like a thing similar to that. But I had my mustache and like longer like hair. My hair is usually curly. I'm wearing a hat now. But I have my hair, the mustache, and I'm wearing like a Hawaiian shirt. And somebody commented, they're like, yeah, Joe looks like the guy that gives you a side mission in Grand Theft Auto 5. And I read it, and I just thought that's really good. That's funny.
See, honestly, though, there's so much comedic gold in comment sections.
Yeah.
Like, it's so underrated. Like, just the casual guy who's a baker.
Yeah.
Like, he's got some hidden, back to what you said at the beginning of the podcast, like, there's so much hidden comedy in people that just.
And when there's no pressure to, that's when people. Pressure is, it's like anything. Pressure is like, gets to people. So, like, you're sitting at home, and you're like, he looks like the guy from Grand Theft Auto. Type. Done. and it's hilarious.
Right. Well, so Joe, I appreciate you giving me your
Yeah.
time. It was really great.
No, this was fun. Thanks,
Can,
yeah.
can you please tell the people where they can find you if you got like find your social handles and whatnot?
So I think I'm Joe is also here on every social media, and then I think I have a website called joeisalsohere.com. I think it works. Check it out.
That's awesome.
And
Yeah.
and go to Hilarities for any show. It's legitimately the best club in the country.
Sincerely, and now that I go there, like every time I go there, I'm looking for Joe. I'm like, is Joe gonna be here?
There's like a wealth of yeah. I don't like everything I just did with my mouth. I don't like that I said that wrong. I don't like the noise I made afterwards. But there's a wealth of talent in Cleveland, so it's really cool to see. Like, there's a lot of good hosts and features right now.
It is funny. We said we were going to touch back on it, and we never did. But everybody loves shitting on Cleveland. But all the same people that shit on Cleveland are these comedians. They're the first to go. Cleveland's got the best audience, like a comedic audience that cares. And I think because of that, it flourishes a true, fun comedy scene for everybody.
Also, twofold. I that's true, but I also hate when people are like, I hate people making fun of Cleveland, but Parma sucks. And that's where I'm from. So be nice to Parma.
Yeah, be nice to Parma, seriously. And back to I think, again, we just project onto different places because this is a hidden oasis. Like the Brecksville Metro Parks.
Beautiful.
That's where I'll run there every day in the summer, and I'll run into people, oh, we're from Toledo, or, we drove all the way from Michigan to check this out. It's like, and this is my backyard, and I do it every day just for the fun. Like, we really have a hidden oasis that is on. Even Ari Shafir, I saw him last weekend, and he's up there, and he goes like, you guys are like the swing state. Like you guys are the ones that tell us who's the president. And you're just like, just having that perspective.
Yeah.
But again, there's a reason for it, and I love it. I don't know. I love it being here. So, Joe, I appreciate you giving me your time, brother. Go find Joe, and I'll be looking to see if I can fish you on here again. Either way, I'm gonna be cheering you on, and I love you giving me your time. Guys, if we made you laugh or if we made you think, the least you could do is like this episode or share it. Please share the episode. You can take that link, put it on your Facebook, whatever it is.
Slap that subscribe button, baby.
Slap it around.
Like in a way that's consensual, but do it.
And comment. Tell us your favorite comedian. Just help us with these algorithms, get our numbers up. But guys, you can find all our content at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. You can like us on Facebook and follow our social medias. But otherwise, guys, we'll catch you next time. And thanks again. So, see ya. Peace. Thanks, Joe.